Hey, BFam, what is up? This week is going to look a little bit different when it comes to podcasts, but not too different because we've done this not too long ago in the past when we were recording our stepdaughter chronicles, when me and my stepdaughter Riley spent about a month and a half just coming on here and talking about different topics in step families, that stepchildren, stepmothers, kind of some issues that we see, some like loyalty binds that go along with their biological parent, some things as a stepmom that we can naturally just fall into and get wrong. So we were doing live videos with that, and then we took a little pause because I had found stuff in our podcast YouTube videos, I guess you should say, vault, that we had created as resources for you guys in a step family that you have to pay for to be able to get. And I thought, you know what? I want these things to be available for you guys just right off the bat. Like, you can pay and get all of it in a pretty package with all the stuff, like in a course outline. But if you just need this information, you can take it and you can run with it. I wanted you to have that. So over the last 5 weeks, we've been doing how to enjoy your blended family. We have been talking to you about you finding common interest with other members in your blended family, finding out what are those things as a whole that your blended family is interested in, and then going and doing more of those things. Finding things that you and just like maybe your biological child, or you and your spouse, or maybe it's just you, something you love to do, something you can do as your own self-care, or a friend's night, girls' night, whatever, guys' night. So we've been sharing those things and the steps and the processes that we truly believe in, that if you utilize them, you're going to see your step family begin to blend in a way that you did not even think is possible. But the key is that you have to utilize them. And in that process of editing those videos and getting those things out to you over the last 5 weeks, because it takes you through this journey of self-care for you. Like, what are the things you're doing to make sure you're at your best and healthy? It takes you through the step of you and your spouse prioritizing your marriage so that your family does not fall into another divorced situation. How can you put your marriage above? It's God, then your marriage, then your children. And so many people disagree with that because they think children can't care for themselves. So obviously you need to prioritize them above your marriage. And we're not saying neglect your children. We're saying your kids are probably getting, of your extra time, your kids are probably getting 95% of your time, and your marriage getting about 5% of your extra time. I know your work, things like that come and get the majority of your time. Sleep gets a lot of your time if you're lucky. And so there's these things that we think, okay, I'm not going to be able to put my marriage above my kids because they need me. And there is ways, and it is very, very important. And so how to make sure that you are doing those things. And then we talk about how to find those family things that you all have in common, like I said earlier, or those individual date ideas for you and the kids, finding those common interests. We have 180 different ideas. If you can't come up with your own to talk through, we give you even a script. We give you the prayers to pray before you even get started. We give you the printouts on some games you can play, all of these things so that you can be successful on finding what those common interests are, things that you enjoy doing, and then prioritizing those things and putting them on the calendar and making them happen. And so as I was going through all of these videos, I was being so convicted. My heart was just we say to do these things and we don't do these things. There was a point in time that we made sure we did those things because our relationships were in such turmoil and such a hard place that we made sure that those are the things that we did to restore those relationships. And now we're at a really weird place. And I told you this video and this podcast isn't going to have your same feel as far as us interviewing anybody or me and Randall talking back and forth. I'm just going to share my heart with you. I have little bitty notes right here of the things that we're going to cover, but I just want to share my heart with you, where Randall and I and the kids and our blended family and the process that we're in, where we're at right now, and what that looks like for us in the future. And so as I was going through that, I was realizing like we're not doing these things that we know are best practices because we got into a place in our relationships where they were better, they were stronger, and then you get complacent a lot when those things start to happen. When you have experienced loss like we have when it came to our blended family and our kids moved away, and you know what life is like not having them with you all the time, you cherish those relationships. You don't take them for granted. And then they came back, and then life just kind of changed into this new season for us. And we began to take some of those relationships for granted. And then also some of those, as I'm going to talk here in a little bit, I'm going to cover like work, what's going on with us, and just like this season of life, and what like enjoying your blended family and what you're going to see and not see kind of stuff. Then I'm going to cover our kids. We're in a parenting adult kids season of life, so I'm going to talk about that. Then I want to talk about like probably the thing that Randall and I are struggling with the most, and that's our marriage. And then talking about like what does the future hold for us. And I got some ideas, and I'm really excited and want to bring you along. If you need it, you can either take it and put it in your back pocket for when you need it later, or join me in this journey as I try to figure out some of these things. So I want to start by saying, when we started enjoying your blended family, Randall and I we had left in 2019. We had both left our full-time positions in careers that we had been in 10 to 20 years. Me, 10 years of teaching, 15 years of early childhood altogether. And then Randall, his being a master electrician. We left those jobs. We went into full-time ministry. We did that, him for about 3 years, me about like a year and a half. And then that was also during the pandemic. And so there was a lot of different things like going on. We were also just in the very beginning stages of reestablishing some relationship with our kids and trying to really mend those areas. And during that time, as we just got really desperate on God, what do you have in store for us? What is next? He brought enjoying your blended family to our hearts, and to help other families that were struggling in these relationships. Those that, because I was like, no, you can't ask us to help blended families when our family is a disaster. We don't even have relationships with some of our kids right now. And he was so clear about, no, I need you to talk on this. I need y'all to focus on this and help people that also are walking through the season of not having a relationship with their kids. So he called us into this, and it was like this immediate, like it was so wild how immediate this turned around as we began to become obedient and stepping out. Like, what does this look like? Let's begin to create resources for that, which we have. We have 2 different sets of resources for you guys, of videos where we are like pouring our heart out into like these 10. One is it's like everything, and it has like maybe 10 weeks worth of videos and printouts and resources of what to do in this thing. And as we began to teach you guys what we were doing during the season, during the brokenness, during when we had no relationship, the relationships became restored. It was like a miracle. And we began to have these great relationships with our kids. And I think it quickly shifted out of that pain of not having them into like just all in family stuff. And so enjoying your blended family, sharing all these fun ideas. The podcast was Fun Fridays, sharing the fun ideas to do with them. The Mondays, we were hitting some of these serious topics that we dealt with and we've seen other people deal with. And so as we began to talk on that more and create a community with you guys of enjoying your blended family, AKA our B fam, life kind of like transitioned out of the ministry into us pursuing this as a full-time business. And we attempted that for 2 years, and the the money just isn't there. If I'm just real with you, I've said this to you guys before. I think a lot of people during the pandemic was stepping out and starting this entrepreneurial journey. And so we were right there along with everybody, like, we can do this. We can do this. We are hardworking individuals. We can make this work. And so we stepped out in that. We stepped out in faith, and we poured all of our time and energy for a year and a half, almost 2 years, I think, of trying to be able to make a living doing it. And when we realized we can't, like, it's not happening, that's when we were going to sell everything. We were going to do RV life, or like, we just minimize our bills. Then we can pursue this and go on the road, maybe have speaking engagements and stuff, because we just truly enjoy it. We have a gifting as far as like speaking in crowds of people. I've never talked in crowds probably more than a couple hundred, but if even that, maybe 100, I don't know. Like, I think probably the church crowd is the largest crowd that I have like spoke on, like a Sunday morning. And so, but we have this love and passion to talk about things that we love and are passionate about, and to teach on those things. So it comes pretty natural, but we also had a lot to learn. We invested a whole lot of money in learning those things. And we thought for sure we were going to cut out all of the things that would take a business to get up and going, that we would cut all of that down. I'm sharing this with you because I know a lot of you guys are on this journey as well. Like, especially a lot of you that listen, y'all have your own step parent, whatever kind of platform, stepmom platform, and you have podcasts as well. Like, because we've built this community, like, we have become like family here. And so I know a lot of y'all, and then some of y'all are just, doing your everyday job, whatever, and you're here for the resources and stuff. And whichever way brings you here, you are totally welcome. But I do want to share this part of it, because it's a little disheartening when you think everybody else out there is like making it, and you for some reason can't get it figured out. And so we try to cut out all the middleman, make it happen, doesn't happen. And we realize, okay, at that point, like, this isn't really going to be the moneymaker. This is going to be more like a ministry, but we have to pay our bills. So what are we going to do? And we kept having all these different opportunities present themselves to us, and just nothing felt right. And then it came to this point where we were like, okay, within this month, it was like, I think November, and we were like, okay, well, we are going to have to do something different. What is that something going to be? Our house, we had just found mold because our dishwasher had like been flooding into our cabinets, and we didn't know. And so we weren't going to be able to sell the house. We weren't going to be able to do the RV life, which was our plan. That was when we gave God, here, you told us to do this, we're giving it back to you. And we either need to make money or we need to sell this house because we don't know what else to do. And we told him what our stipulations were. And then we began to pursue that, and he quickly shut that door. And I believe he shut that door because if God wanted us on the road and out there doing that, he would have made a way for it to happen, because we were truly doing all that we could to make it happen. So house floods, has mold, can't sell the house, take it off the market. Randall gets this opportunity to go back to where he was working before, but at a position now that he has his degree, to step into this role underneath the facilities director at our community college. Within a month, the director moved and transferred to a different college, and Randall stepped up into that role. And he has been doing a fantastic job. This is going on his second year of doing that in February. So he's been doing it about a year and a half, and he's just incredible at it. Like, he was designed and created to do this kind of job. But with that being said, it is a very time consuming and stressful position to come into something and put all these systems into place and get things up and going to the liking and what it needs to be. And that has caused him to have to remove himself from doing pretty much all things enjoying your blended family. At first, we were trying to like batch record these episodes on the weekend, and then it wasn't happening. So I took the lead, and I began to have a lot of guests on. We've done some book studies and all of that, and it has been great. Like, I have enjoyed it. I have grown so much over this last year of me, because I think it was like May of last year when I came on and did a podcast or a live or something, and I'm like crying because I'm like, I don't know what to do. And then one of my friends, part of our community, Ginger from the Family Core, they have this cool app that you can use to help like organize and prioritize your family and all this stuff. She messaged me. She's like, girl, you are not in this alone. Like, let me help you. What can I do to help you? And so I had her on as a guest. And then I just began to have all these guests and do it. Like, we went through a book study last summer of Blended Kingdom Families book, Blended and Redeemed. And that was super successful. Like, we were just rocking and rolling, making it happen. And then it came to a part where it's like, okay, Scarlett, you are still not making any money doing this. You're trying. You've got to do something. And in the meantime, I've been going into daycares and doing consulting. So it's like, okay, do you need to pursue this full time or do you need to do this full time? Really being divided in what you're doing, you're not making any traction in either place. And so I've had to step back a little bit from what I've been posting and spending time on social media and all of that, like, so that I can focus on getting these online resources for early childhood, because I have seen positive, like, coming and unfolding from the things that I'm doing there. People in daycares and stuff, they have more money set aside to do trainings and buy resources and all that kind of stuff. So still not what I need it to be. I still have this huge vision of where it's going and what I am creating, and it's very time consuming and what I'm doing, but I think it's going to be super beneficial and I'm excited about it and I love it. I love early childhood. It's just something that's in me. Like, I went without it for like 2 to 3 years when I left the public school system and we were doing full-time ministry and then us doing blended family stuff. Like, I forgot how much I loved it. And then the grandbaby was born and it just rehashed all of these things that I just enjoy so much. And so I can easily get lost in that and begin to pour my energy and time into that. And meantime, just trying to keep enjoying your blended family afloat over here and learning all of the background stuff that Randall was able to take care of when he was doing it. So we've tried to really streamline a lot of things. I'm telling you all of this because I want you to know, like, for one, we're not going anywhere because God placed this on our heart, regardless if it makes money or doesn't make money. Every time I get to a point where I'm like, is this something we should continue to pursue? I am reminded over and over of how much of a need there is. We have friends, family, people, even social media, where I'm seeing their marriages fall apart. I'm seeing their children leaving their home, DMs coming in, just people reaching out through text where they're telling me, like, thank you for that podcast, or thank you for talking about that, or thank you for making me not feel alone, or this is what's going on in my family. And like, I'm seeing like their family be torn apart because they are not seeing the importance of prioritizing their marriage over being a mom in their family. There's just so many things that keep coming up that it's like, no, we live in a time now where having a step family, some sort of blended family, is more normal in one form or fashion. Either you're in it yourself, maybe you came from it, or maybe your children are experiencing it. I'm seeing it all over the place, and we need more resources. There are a lot of resources out there. I think we still need more Christian resources, things faith-based, that are, because I know that we would not have got to this point had we not had a relationship with the Lord, had we not cried out in prayer and teamed up with him for him to do the things that were impossible, because there were situations that we were dealing with that in our own ability were impossible. We had to trust him with those things, and we saw him so faithfully walk us through those seasons. And so I can't let it go. I can't give it up. There is a need, whatever that looks like, even if it is just in a ministry type of format. We're here for it. Even if you were just my hobby and my friends and my community, and we're walking this out together. And so that kind of takes me into the next part, because I'm doing enjoying early childhood. It gets sometimes confusing for me in my brain with enjoying your blended family, enjoying early childhood. The reason enjoying is in both of those, and our business that I had first started blogging was enjoying the moment, all is because I need a reminder all the time that in this season, I need to enjoy every single season and every single day because it does not come natural. So that's why I'm trying to help myself and you guys remember to enjoy this life that you have been blessed with, and the kids that you have been blessed with, the job that you have been blessed with, the marriage you have been blessed with. Enjoy it, enjoy it, enjoy it. So I'm working on enjoying early childhood during my main working hours. And then Randall is at our community college and he is running the facilities there. And then as we have time, we are pouring into these resources of enjoying your blended family. With that, on top of all that's going on in our, like, how are we paying our electric bill and such, and, just eating, all of those things. On top of that, we are in a season where our children are all adults now. And in this season, our house, like we've always said, has become a revolving door. And as soon as one leaves, one comes back, and that one leaves, or two come in. And it's a constant. And I will admit that I want it that way. Not want it. I want our kids to always know that they have a place, that they will never be left on the streets and not have a place to call home. I am 100% okay with that. Like, I moved back to my grandma's house probably 6 times, between trying to be an adult and go get an apartment to myself, to me and my ex-husband in transition of him going to the military and me needing to move home, and then him going overseas to fight, and us needing to come back to Texas for a while, and then him getting out of the military, then getting a divorce, and all of these things that I had to keep going home. And so I understand that. And I want our kids to always know they have a place. And I think these things are important to talk about as well, because it happens all the time, but it is different when it is a blended family and you have that different dynamics. And I hear a lot of complaints when it comes to adult kids and step parents feeling like the biological parents are just enabling their children to be unproductive members of society. I hear that all the time. So I know we're not the only ones that are walking through this season of having like a revolving door. And I'm, like I said, I'm okay with the revolving door, but the goal is not for our kids to live here forever. And I think sometimes my kids think that it is for them to live here forever. And I'm like, as much as I enjoy y'all and I love you, I do want y'all to be successful. And that means to be able to provide an income for yourself and to live on your own. And so we want to help you to get to that place. But I will be honest that I do not always know how. I don't know where my part as mom is to continue to be mom and help, and where it's my kids' job to step up and have responsibilities. And so when my stepdaughter, when she moved back last year, it was going to be for a short season, and she ended up, that didn't work out. And then we're like, we love you here. Like, it's no big deal. Like, stay until you get your feet on the ground. She's pursuing a music career. And, in other cultures, people live with their parents a lot longer than just as soon as they graduate high school, they're out on their own. Like, it's not abnormal in other countries and other cultures for you to stay in the same household. And we joke about that. We read a book about that. I can't remember what the book is called right now, but it talks about how society has kind of like isolated families in this way and put that pressure of young adults having to be able to do it all on their own. And we just live in an economy where that's really, really, really hard to do. And so with our oldest, she was kind of like doing these like day jobs and also starting up her music career. She is doing really well in it as far as like a beginning artist, getting out there and finding gigs and teaching lessons and all of this. But at the same time, like, we didn't really have like a game plan, like an end in sight. And at first, that's cool, whatever. It doesn't bother me. And then her sister was moving to Texas, and she's finding her own place to live and stuff. And we're like, yeah, open door. Come on, let's do this. So we're planning for that, like, short term, however long that's going to be. And then during all of that, then my youngest, she also needed a place to stay. And so she moved in all within the other two, like within like the same week. So we went from one kid to having 3 kids. We went from one dog to having 2 dogs. And we weren't really prepared. We thought we were prepared, but we were not really prepared. And in my mind, we were going to have like this whole like game plan and this meeting and make sure that we're all on the same page. And it's going to be so fun. It's going to be like an ongoing slumber party. And again, with a plan that this isn't forever, but let's enjoy it while we have this season. And so I quickly realized that I don't have the skills and the tools that I need to be able to handle not even just the kids that live here, but just like parenting adult kids. And like I was saying earlier, like the economy right now, it's like so hard. Like even for my son that lives on his own to find jobs, it's so hard for our young adults to find like decent paying jobs that they can support their family on, to find decent cars that they can get from here to here on. All of these things like have become like daily stressors. And paying for daycare or babysitters and that kind of stuff, that's it, all adds up. And so I want to be like, if I had my way, I just want to be a stay-at-home grandma, if I'm completely honest with you. I would love to get like all this online kind of doing its thing. I get to work from home and I get to watch her and love on her. And then any future grandkids that come our way, that is my gig. That would be amazing. We're not there yet. But I do watch the grandbaby as much as they need me to, so that they can go and work as much as they need to. So all of this has been showing me that I do not have the tools that I need to be able to set up like what kind of boundaries do we need as adults making it in life, like for us to prepare them. And then there's also like this, as I've been, okay, before I jump into that. So I signed back up for therapy because that is something that helped me a lot when the kids were leaving and going to live with their other parents. I did not know how to handle that either. And it was like really like I couldn't think of anything else. Like it was all consuming for me. And so I ended up going and getting some tools then. And it really helped a lot. And that has carried me for so far. But now we're in a new season and I need some more tools. And so I signed up for that. I've been going for a couple of weeks now. And as I'm like unfolding all of these like situations of things that are bothering me, the therapist begins to give me some advice in these things. And it was like, oh, I didn't even realize like that's something we should be doing. And I might share more on that, exactly what those things are as time unfolds. But the thing is, when I'm talking to you guys and I'm sharing our like family stuff, sometimes that involves me sharing the kids' stuff. And I try not to do that unless I have the approval and authority to be able to share those kind of things. So we might get into that more in the future. But with that, like I'm beginning to realize those things, that what those boundaries should even look like, because in my head, this is normal. This is okay. This is just how it is. And she's been asking me, well, like, do you want it to be like this? Or why do you do this? And so I've been trying to unpack that. And I think there is a whole lot of mom guilt of missing out on those years when the kids went to go live with their other parents, that I was trying to make up for that time. But now they're no longer 15 to 18 years old when those lessons should have been taking place, when that preparation for their future should have been happening. Now they're in their 20s, they're early to mid 20s, and they are already adults. And now I'm still trying to do things like mom, but there's things where certain certain tasks need to be passed on to the children for them to be able to function and be successful when they are on their own. And so Randall and I have been trying to find time to even discuss those. And that moves us into the last topic for this episode today is, as Randall and I have been trying to even find a moment to talk about any of these things, we have realized how far away we have gotten from prioritizing each other. I love having the girls here. I love having the grandbaby here. I love when my son and my daughter-in-law stop by, and I will sit out and chit chat and talk with them into what's considered the wee hours at our house, 11 o'clock, midnight, or what have you. And we have to wake up at 5 a.m. So not only am I not prioritizing my marriage, I'm also not prioritizing my own health, because my body needs a certain amount of sleep for it to function at its best. Like, I begin to get eye ulcers and my throat, and I was having all these breathing issues, these different things coming up because I'm pushing myself to the limit to be able to be everything for everybody. And then in that process, also pushing that relationship with my husband like further and further and further back. It's very natural for me to pour into my children. It's not as natural for me to pour into my marriage. And I know that, I mean, that might be a horrible thing to say. I did a poll on our social media asking, and there was like, I felt like nobody else really had that problem. And I'm like, I guess it's just me. Maybe the rest of you guys are just, it comes more naturally. Randall and I aren't like super like lovey-dovey, like passionate towards each other kind of thing. And we can become like very like business, like let's just take care, like I take care of his needs as far as like making sure he has his the food that he needs, his lunch and his breakfast, and that things are picked up or cleaned up, like more of that, making sure that his physical stuff like that is taken care of, but our intimacy, connecting in that kind of way, like that goes on the like way back burner. And so as I'm beginning to realize this, I started reading a couple books that my friend had recommended. And between all three books that I was reading, and they were like, I mean, two of them, I guess, were marriage books. So it was fitting. But one of them, the first one that I have been reading is by Jimmy and Karen Evans and their daughter, which is Fighting for the Soul of Your Children. And as I'm reading that one, the whole thing in the beginning was talking about strong marriage, strong marriage, strong marriage, prioritizing your marriage, being on the same page in your marriage. I'm like, I'm trying to pray for my kid's soul. I'm not trying to strengthen my marriage right now, but that's all that it kept talking about and talking about. And so it's like, as I continue to hear it, it's like, if I want my kids to be at their best, I need my marriage to be at its best. And right now, it's not. It's on it's on the back burner. So then I began to read this book that a friend recommended called Loving Him Well. And I don't even know who that one is by. I had it pulled up. I tried to record this yesterday. Everything I was doing trying to record this yesterday was a stumbling block to even like recording in the middle of it, and it just shutting me down saying you're out of storage. And I was like, oh, come on. I even recorded part of it in the car, just part of it in the car, so that I could see if maybe that was it, because like I'm trying to find like a quiet time where I can talk and not feel like other people in the house are listening to me. And so I was like, well, let me just start recording in the car. And I don't even know where that went. It just like disappeared. I pulled up to the house. I shut it off, exit, came in the house, and I kept waiting for it to pop up, and it's missing. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to do that again. I don't want to record the whole thing. So Loving Him Well is what it's called, by Gary Thomas. And he's actually a Texas dude like we are. And it has these chapters, because that brings up, it had like some really, really, really insightful things. And I thought this would be a great summer book study, because here at Enjoying Your Blended Family, you know, we say you're prioritizing God, then your marriage, then your kids, and then everything else after that. Yet, like I said, we're not practicing what we preach. We're doing things out of order. We're doing it backwards. And so, I mean, we got God first, but then flipping that, the kids and our relationship. And just as it was talking about these different topics, I was like, man, that is so good. You can bookmark on the podcast, or not podcast, on audiobooks. And I was like bookmarking all the time, because I was like, all of this is valuable stuff that I need to share. I'm trying to get it to resume so I can show you the chapters. Like part 1 is your marriage makeover begins with you. And so it does talk about, like, yes, your spouse probably has a lot of things that they need to do and improve on, but you can truly make the difference by doing these things. And same stuff that we preach, right? But sometimes when you struggle with something, like, it really helps, for one, to keep it at the focus of in your mind, and studying something, reading books on it, and all of that help keep it in focus. And then doing it in community also helps as well. So the chapters like being worthy of me, the beauty of God's strength in a woman, creating the climate for change, asking God for fresh eyes, the helper, understanding the male mind, confronting her most common concerns, taming the temper, part 2. I don't even know where taming the temper part 1 was. Rich and Pat, the magic question. Oh, that was a really interesting chapter about the magic question. Pure passion, the problem with porn. That was really interesting as well, and talking about that, and having affairs, like having that trust because of not prioritizing your marriage, not to excuse somebody that goes outside the marriage and has an affair. But when we put our marriage on the back burner, it is opening up the door for these things, and why we need to prioritize that marriage so that we can put up these safeguards. And then finding faith in the future and all of that stuff with your hold on, I was looking. Dang it. It's not what I was like. Oh, bookmarks right here. So like if you're watching on the YouTube, those are all the different spaces that I was like, oh my gosh, that's so good. That's so good. That's so good. And so I was going to make some content on those things. But now that I'm trying to figure out, I was like, okay, the How to Enjoy Your Blended Family, that series is over. What are we going to do next? Randall and I were really hoping to come on and share some stuff on the podcast, but his weekends, they just have like some major things going on at the college, and he has been pulled. And then when he finally has a weekend where he's actually off, like, hey, you want to come record a podcast with me? Even though he enjoys it, it's like, it's just a lot. And so I thought, you know what, if I can do my part, if I can do something, what would that look like as far as helping our marriage and making it priority, and being able to have these hard conversations and be able to make time for, like, seriously guys, this last weekend we were driving an hour to one of Riley's gigs, and I sat in the car and I was like, I'm tired of him talking about work, and I'm not going to talk about the kids. And we were back in this place that we were like 7 or 8 years ago, where we truly nothing. He didn't even know this was going on in my brain. But that's one of the things that pushed us to really focus on our marriage back then when our kids had left, is because we found ourselves sitting there with nothing to talk about when we weren't going to talk about work or the kids. And so I'm just sitting there in the car and I was like, I can't think of anything, nothing to talk about. Like, I don't even know what to do right now because I can't think of anything to talk about. So we just sat there in silence. And I was like, man, I hate this. I hate this for us. Like, I want it to feel different. I want it to look different. I don't want to be, not that, Brent, I'm not going to say never, because we're not like magic people. But we're both in that mindset of till death do us part. So I don't see like either one of us like being like, okay, I'm tired of this marriage. I look like I'm going to dip. I'm out of here. But I don't want to give the enemy any kind of foothold in any of that and opening up those doors. And so I want to figure out, okay, what can I do to prioritize this time, to prioritize him above like anything else besides God, of course. And like next week, we have Riley's younger brother. He hasn't been here in a couple of summers, and he's coming to stay as well. So the house is getting even more fuller, and the schedule is getting even busier. And yet, how are we going to make time for each other and make this happen? And so I would like to do this book study. If you guys would like to do it along with me, I may bring some guests to come in just so that we can talk about it, because I like that. I like that dynamic, especially when I have some of my girlfriends on here and we talk about it. So I'm going to reach out to them, see if they want to do it. They may be busy. I don't know. And it would be really cool if I could get Gary on here, because you know, having the author, the person that write the book, and he's from Texas, so maybe he would do it. But he's probably like really big and popular, and I don't know. We'll see what happens there. And then there is this other book that I started reading as well, and it's called Married Sex, and it's about like, it's like teaching all of this stuff in marriage, or sex inside your marriage, and how to hold that in its preciousness that it is. And I've enjoyed the book so much that I've given it as a gift now a couple times. So I think it might be something also for us to look into as well. I haven't made it all the way through the book because I've been reading all of these books all at the same time, and these are my nonfiction books, and I've also been listening and reading fiction books as well. And I don't know why my personality reads multiple books at once. It's just what I do. One of them is a physical copy. The Fighting for Your Kid's Soul is a physical copy. And I don't have a lot of time to read physical books. And then one of them is something that's not really appropriate for me to be just listening out as I'm walking around the house or on my way to daycare. I feel like when I'm going to work at the daycare, it's like a weird thing to be listening to on the way there. And so then that's when I started reading Loving Him Well. And so I'm kind of making my way. I finished Loving Him Well all the way through now, and it's just a really good book. So we'll start there. And then we'll make our way if we need to do more books as a summer, because we'll probably do multiple chapters in one recording, I would assume, because there's like 10 chapters or whatever. So that is that. That is our life update, our work update, what's going on in Enjoying Your Blended Family. One thing that what I was saying in the beginning, and that I wanted to reiterate here as I'm wrapping things up, is that we started this not because we're experts at enjoying your blended family. We did not even have our family as like a whole unit at that point, and we were just here to provide some sort of resource. And it kind of morphed into this other stuff where we really didn't have time to practice, to establish these healthy things and boundaries before. We were just out here like sharing our hearts with you guys and taking you on this journey along with us. So I do want you to look at our family as like a beacon of hope of what is possible, but also as a like, look at them, they're not quitting. These are the things, like these are things that we have done. These are things that work, but we still have our own struggles too. And every season brings a new set. We are in this season of parenting adult kids, and we don't have a roadmap for that because we're just now in the middle of it. So as we can share with you, these are the things we did to reestablish our relationship with our kids. We still don't know what we're doing in this season. Just like there's a lot of blended family help out there that is going through similar, like they're still raising their children. They haven't gone through the teenage years yet, right? They haven't experienced what it's going to be like when the kids want to go live with their other parents. And those are areas that we're able to speak into those lives. But we also need resources and things to help us during this season of our life and what that looks like. So I love you guys, and I am grateful to be able to come on here and build this community with you. Please feel free to reach out. Again, usually spend most of our time on Instagram, Enjoying Your Blended Family, but our TikTok has recently began to take on a life of itself, and it's almost larger than our community on Instagram. So just letting you know there, if you prefer TikTok versus Instagram. For some reason, Instagram stories is where I prefer to be. So I will spend more time like going in and just sharing some of the behind the scenes stuff, but I haven't been great with that either. And some of you also may not know, like with all that's going on within our family, my best friend has also been diagnosed with breast cancer. And although I'm not there with her, like that is eventually going to be like where I'm going with her and doing treatments and stuff. The the pain and the heartache and the figuring out and getting the treatments and all of the stuff, I'm not even the one walking through it. She's the one walking through it. But when you're walking through life and death with someone, sometimes going on and talking social media and talking about everyday life, it can be a challenge. Just like there's so much going on around the world, and there's war and there's violence and there's just devastation happening all over the world. And so it can be hard to be like, okay, all of this is happening, and now let me get on here and talk about my miniature problems, my first world problems happening over here, of me not being able to record a podcast because my Mac computer is full of storage right now, like wah wah wah, right? Like, but when you're in your everyday life and you're trying to do the things that are part of your job, part of your ministry, part of your whatever, these little things, that is your world, right? These are the struggles. When your kid is struggling as an adult to do all the things adults need, that is your world. Your life is circled around that. When your best friend is experiencing a hard battle of breast cancer, that is consuming your thoughts in your brain. Like, these are real world things to you. And so even though there are like horrible things happening all around us, there are also things happening in our own families, and we don't know each other's battles, right? Like, we don't know what they're going through. I have to remind myself of that all the time, is that we don't know, like when I'm encountering a teacher that I'm working with at the daycares and stuff, like, I don't know what they just came from. I don't know what's happening in their own personal life. And that brings that into these moments when they're working with kids. We don't know what the kids are bringing with them, what's happening in their home life. Like, we just don't know what's happening behind the doors of other people's houses. And here at Enjoying Your Blended Family, I try to talk openly and honest about those things as much as I can, because we kept that silent and quiet, and it brought a lot of shame along with it for so long, because we felt like we were the only ones. And so as much as I would love to just be able to talk about all the stuff, we also try to respect our kids' boundaries and that kind of stuff, like their privacy and what they're going through, because it isn't just our story, it is their story too. And so sometimes that's it as well. Like, I have Prayers from a Mom, where I go on live Monday through Thursday, and we read our way through the Bible right now. We've been doing that starting the second year. We had Prayers from a Mom on the podcast, where we were praying like specific topics over our kids, praying scriptures, and all of that. That's on Prayers from a Mom podcast and inside a private Facebook group. But over a year ago, we transitioned and we started reading our way through the Bible, and we just got into Deuteronomy. And last week, I only recorded 1 out of the 4 days I came live, because when there are hard things going on in my family, like, I do not know how to come on here and talk without oversharing. I can't come on here and just shut off the emotions and act like nothing's going on, because it's part of my personality. So sometimes I just have to be quiet. Sometimes I just have to not get on the camera, because I just need time to allow myself to process it before I come on here and I share whatever, whenever it's safe to share. So with that being said, though, if you want to join me on Prayers from a Mom, it's here in this YouTube channel. We just started Deuteronomy. We have been learning and discovering so much as we've been going through this journey. And it seriously is one of the best tools, or say the best tool that you can have, is take the word of God and declare those words over your kids. And it's going to make all the difference for your family. So I love you guys. I wish the best for you. Reach out to me, Instagram or TikTok, or I don't know. Don't reach out on email. Does anybody even, I keep debating, like, should I send emails like they suggest that we're supposed to do when you're running an online business? And I'm like, I don't even want to open up emails that I'm getting. Why would anybody want to open up our emails? But if you're like, yes, 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 please send me emails with your advice. We have 2 years worth of emails that have been written and ready to go. And some people may have got them in the very beginning, but we had a very, very, very small, like 20 people when we started out. So well, it's basically the stories and advice and all this stuff that we have put out there. that we could send to you. If that is something that you really, really would love to have, we can make it happen. But I just feel like, in my opinion, that's nobody's looking for that anymore. So I love you. Have a blessed day. And until next week, let me know too. I'll post some stuff on social media, but let me know if you want to join this book club, and we will get that going for next Monday. Bye, guys.